Shalom Aleichem to this remarkable Chavraya Kadisha, joining from near and far. It's really a special privilege to get together with friends, some old, some new, and to prepare for the Yom Noraim together. We're just a few short days away from Rosh Hashana, a day which is referred to as the Yom of the Haktara of the Melech Malchei Amlachim, the day of the crowning of the King of Kings. And Yehi Ratzon, should be Hashem's will, that in the merit of all the davening and the learning that we're doing together in this holy virtual Chabura, that Hashem should steady our hands, that we should be zocheh to faithfully place the crown upon his head with love for one another and with love for our Father in heaven, deeply and firmly entrenched within our heart. Wear it on our shirt sleeves as well, if we'd like. The Divrei Chaim of Tzanz would frequently recount a story about a certain almana who was zilcha to a charitable endowment of a single chicken egg. Her children, who were watching the exchange from a bit of a distance, saw this benefactor give to their poor mother this egg and came running over with wide eyes and said, Ima, can we eat it? The mother explained to her children, do you know what this is? This is a chicken egg. If we protect it, if we nurture it, if we keep it warm, then in a few days it'll hatch and we'll have our very own chicken. If we raise it and then breed it together with another chicken, then it'll have more eggs and we'll have 5 chickens, we'll have 10 chickens, we'll have a whole chicken farm, we can start to sell the chickens, and with the proceeds we could buy sheep and we could buy goats and we'll become fabulously wealthy. And as she's going on, she's getting excited and she throws her hands up in the air in excitement and the egg goes flying into the air and falls onto the floor. And the Divrei Chaim used to say how tragic it is that this woman who was holding the answer to her problems in her hands, for that moment she could have nourished her children, she could have satiated their hunger. And who knows, maybe the benefactor would have seen, what a wise woman. I'll take care of her tomorrow, I'll take care of her a week, for a month, for a year, I'll take care of her for the rest of her life. But instead, because she got so carried away with what would have been, what could have been, in her mind what should have been, the dreams and the demyonos about how she was going to turn this egg into a Fortune 500 company, she lost the egg that she was holding in her hands. Rosh Hashana is referred to as Hayom Haras Olam. It's the day that Hashem created the world. And in a certain sense, the Yom Noraim are bookended by Rosh Hashana, which is Hayom Haras Olam, and Yoma, the day, Yom Kippur, which is called Yoma, the day, which is teaching us that when Hashem gives us a day, when He gives us an opportunity, it's our chance to hold on to that egg and to say, this is all I need right now. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, in a sugya about the proper shear, the proper length of a shofar, he's talking about a shofar that has a crack or a hole in it. And the Gemara says if the crack or the hole is somewhere towards the top of the shofar and there's still a tefach of shofar left, then it could be that that shofar is kosher. In the Gemara's Lashon, the Gemara says as long as there's a little bit protruding from each side of the person's hand as they're holding the shofar, that's sufficient. That's a kosher shofar. The Rosh and the Meiri explain that that's the measurement of 4 fingers of a tefach. And that the reason you need it to be protruding on both sides is that it doesn't look like you're doing a trick by blowing it with your hands, but that you're actually using an instrument. So a minimum shear of a shofar is a tefach. On a deeper level, this is the mystery of what Rav Simcha Bunum of Pshischa explains, what he explained, the secret of the pasuk, Hinei tfachos nasata yamai, that Dovid'l Melech said in Tehillim, Hashem, you made my days into tfachos, into tfachim. Rashi on that pasuk explains that in the times of Dovid'l Melech, people used to measure large swaths of land by taking a long rope and stretching it over the whole land, and then slowly pulling that rope in, 1 tefach, 2 tefachim, 3 tefachim, 4 tefachim. And even though there's much rope that already got pulled in, that's already on this side, and there's much rope that still needs to be pulled in from this side, all a person has is the tefach that's in their hand. Rav Simcha Bunum explained, Tfachos nasata yama, you made my days. Hashem, thank you for giving me one day at a time, for giving me the ability to have just what I'm holding in my hand right now. The Divrei Chaim's almana's egg, our tefach that we're holding in our hand, the shofar, which is a tefach, each tekiah by itself is a new opportunity to say, Hayom Haras Olam. Today Hashem created the world, today Hashem created me, today I could do what I need to do. Rabbi Yisrael Isserlin, the Trumas Hadeshin, who's recorded on almost every page of the Shulchan Aruch. The tshuvos of the Trumas Hadeshin are world-renowned. His Talmidim explained that on Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Yisrael Isserlin would sit throughout the entire Psukei de Zimra, and he would just say Baruch She'amar. He would say Baruch She'amar the whole time. Slowly and surely he would say Baruch She'amar. Not rushing on what's coming afterwards. Reb Nachman so famously explained that when a person wants to daven properly, that's what you should do. I'm at Hodu now. So I begin with Hodu with a few psukim. And I'm just saying that. I'm not going to focus on Ashrei today. I'm not going to focus on Yishtabach. Just on Hodu. I'm going to have a kavanah just for these few moments. And when the moment passes and you're holding a new tefach in your hand, then you could decide to focus on that tefach, and then another tefach, and another tefach. Hayom haras olam. The entire period of Elul, which we're still in now, is so preoccupied with Rosh Tevos. Rav Moshe Wolfson explained once that the idea of Rosh Tevos, Ani ladodi v'dodili, ina liyadcha v'samtu l'chamakom, that Hashem's giving us all these Rosh Tevos, ish l're'eu matanos lavyonim, that each of these Rosh Tevos is teaching us that the main thing is that first letter. Don't focus on anything else. Rosh Hashana right now, you have this one day to focus on. What's going to happen afterwards? The chicken's going to lay another egg, and then we're going to have a big farm, and we're going to get... None of that has anything to do with anything. And Elul, which is the Hachana for Rosh Hashanah, is preparing us. Just look at the first letter for right now. Just appreciate the beginning. Appreciate what you have in this moment. That's the inyan of Elul being all about Rosh Tevos, that we're focusing on Hayom Haras Olam. What I'm giving birth to for the coming year is happening just in the Rosh Tevos. It's just happening in this first few moments. Shlomo Freifeld explained once that this is the meaning of the pasuk on a deeper level of Ki rega ba'apo chaim birtzono. Ki rega ba'apo chaim birtzono. The simple interpretation of the pasuk, of course, means that Ki rega ba'apo, just one moment in Hashem's anger, chaim birtzono, and then we go back to life as in the way that we want, in the way that we like it. If a person experiences Hester Panim, after just a moment of living in Hashem's anger, chaim birtzono, we return to a life of nachas. Freifeld explained, Ki rega ba'apo, when a person lives the rega, a person lives that moment, ba'apo, the moment that's right in front of their nose. When a person lives that moment that's right in front of their face, and isn't worried about the moment that's coming later, isn't worried what's happening after Rosh Hashanah, about Sukkot, and about Pesach, and about Shavuos, and about all the things that are coming afterwards, about the dafi umis that are going to get harder as we go along, but is just focused on the avoda of whatever's happening right now. When you're holding that tefach of the shofar in your hand, when you're holding that egg in your hand, and you're focused on Hayom Haras Olam, so then anything is possible. That's the whole avodah of Rosh Hashanah, that we blow back the breath that Hashem blew into us on the day of Hayom Haras Olam. On that day, when we're finished focusing on all the Rosh Tevos, and we can finally actually live in that moment, we're able to live in that first word, and we're living ba'apo, we're living right by our nose. We're not focused on what's down in the future. Chazal tell us that tshuva is a lashon of ata. Ata means now. Reb Nachman explained so famously that hayom, that today, as Chazal tell us, hayom, today, if we listen to Hashem's voice, Mashiach's coming. Already, if we listen to Hashem's voice today and we're not worried about what's going to be tomorrow, Hashem is willing to bring Mashiach. And Rabbi Nachman explained in Tinyana, in Siman Yud, that that's the secret of when a person has Yishuv Hadas, when a person is sitting b'Yishuv Hadas and isn't worried about what's going to happen afterwards. When a person's not worried about what's coming after his nose. When a person's not worried what happens after the chicken, gets laid and becomes another chicken. When a person's not worried what's coming down the road, when we're just focused on the Rosh Tevos, when we're living with Hayom Haras Olam, then we're zocheh to see the most beautiful things. May Hashem help us that in the merit of our studying Torah together, in the merit of our Chaim Ba'apo, by living by the nose, we should be zocheh to a life and to a year of Chaim Birtzono. Ksiv Chasimatova.